All righty. Okay, I see Grayson and Kristen are here. Thank you. And as you recall, or should, what I hopefully you had seen, that I was going to start this meeting at 6:30, and because of what I perceived was going to be some bad conditions driving at night. So we're a little bit early, but don't worry about that. I'm going to be here, and I need, once I'm signed in here, I need to stay so others can join. Either one of you have any questions I can help you with? I'll unmute you for a second. Let's see here. And let's see, unmute all. Grayson, I see that you have a, Grayson, can, let me see if this thing has unmuted you. Just let me know if you're there. Okay, I see the chat. Okay. I'm going to try to unmute your... I'm going to try to unmute everybody here. So see if you want to. Okay, Grayson, try your microphone now, or do you have a microphone available there? Or are you in the lab? Okay. Looks like to me you're in the lab. Oh, okay, 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 good enough. Fine. And we'll see about you, Kristen. Kristen, do you have a, are you over at the lab or are you at home? And you can use the chat function to let me know. As we wait for this 6:30 hour, she may be away from her computer for a bit. I'm going to get us running here in about 10 or 15 minutes. I know I'll start a little bit early. I hope everybody saw the announcement and saw the email that I sent out. So I'll be here to see if people have got some questions, but once about 6:15, maybe 6:20, we will start. I need to check a couple of things, first of all. That's all right. Don't worry about it. Sound like you sneezed. Okay. And I'm sure we'll have some others join us here at around 6:30. So thank you for dialing in. If you would want to, you could stay for, well, if you're at home, you can stay as long as you want or bug out. Kristen, if you can hear me, are you at home or at the lab or where are you? Okay, um, I'm going to try the chat function. I just shot her a message. And let me get the vital source book up here. Get that going. Okay, good. And it's a 6:11. We'll start in about 10 minutes here. I'm sure there will be some people who maybe had not checked their email or had not checked the announcements. Hopefully everybody got them, and hopefully everybody is at home safe and sound, or in the dorm rooms safe or sound. There's a lot of talk on the evening news on the weather today about a lot of talk about the roads remaining wet and not really drying off or freezing. And so played it that way. Good, good, good. I'm glad. Good, good, very good. Good. This will be one of the few times we'll do this ground-based session virtually. Probably the only time. I don't know. I have to try to figure out how this can work. But I was a little reticent when I kept hearing the news people talk about all the bridges freezing over with black ice and all that stuff tonight. So that kind of, I prefer to err on caution, err on the side of caution. And I never know how many students I have coming in from the areas that were really affected. And it's one thing to drive in here in the afternoon, it's another thing to drive through that stuff at night or early in the morning when you can't see. Okay. So we'll hang here and we'll see how we're doing. So I'm going to mute my mic for about 5 or so minutes, and then at 6:30, I'll start rolling. Well, not 6:30, probably more like 6:20, 25. And in about 3 or 4 minutes, I'll go ahead and start, which will put us about 8 to 10 minutes, maybe 10 minutes a little bit early, but that's okay. People can always double up. So I think we'll start at about 6:20, maybe 6:21, something like that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. We're about 10 minutes early. However, I won't want to keep the two of you. So the two of you certainly can bug out 10 minutes early tonight or stay on board if you wish. I'm sure we'll have others join us. And I'm hoping that everybody got the announcement and the email about tonight that we were going to be virtual and that, we're not meeting over in Bailey. We're going to be virtual. So I hope that everybody saw that and looked at it. If there are others if there's some that did not, they can go, they'll probably be able to get in the lab and see it anyway. I see a couple of more. Let's see. I got Letka, glad to have you aboard. And Hannah, glad to see you aboard as well. Thank you. And I was assuming you got the message about tonight. So we're going to get started, and I know we'll have others who will join us as we go along. I wanted to just quickly give us a quick, just to take a minute and cover about where we are. We started out in week 0 and some of this stuff in terms of the course introductions, and now we're here in week 8, and we're going to explore a little bit further this idea of the data warehouse concept. Now, just to remind everybody, the course is divided into a ground-based portion and then a virtual portion. If we hadn't had the inclement weather today, and I hadn't been seeing all the reports I did about ice, black ice and all that, we would be meeting there physically. But nonetheless, this tonight, I will go till about 7:30 or so, about 75 minutes, and then I will do a part 2, which will make up the virtual portion. Now, when I did the part 2, and then I posted it over in the announcements, I spent some time talking about this idea of the data warehouse, and we spoke about designing information. And so all of this starts with the idea that I can take data and then I can store it in a way that makes sense, in a way that's logical, and in a way that I can get to it as fast as possible. Data is of no use unless I can use it to make a decision. So you'll hear that people use the term data and information. They're two different things. Information is data that's actionable. I can make a decision, draw an opinion, do something with it. Now, when we begin to develop this idea of a data warehouse, it's simply, it's really the product of two things. First of all, it's this idea that it's three things. One, the idea that we tend to work with records and numbers in rows, and we tend to collect and make lists of things, and so a data warehouse is really a set of tables that are lists, or what we would call records. Now, you're going to hear, or you'll hear me even talk about, or you'll see the term a data mart, and that's a very specialized part of a data warehouse. You might have a data warehouse might have tables that are about nothing about except customers and dimensions or variables. Then you'll have you'll have some tables, a data mart that's about your competitors, on and on and on. And the whole idea is that I can call data and I can get them out and make some meaningful decisions, or I can get some insights. Now, one of the things that we're going to do in this course is we'll see a lot in terms of how I design a query, how I go after certain sets of information. And we'll see that as we go on along. And eventually, how do I take what I've gotten in the database and put it into a tool or an application that will provide a visualization or a picture, a graph, a pie chart, whatever, that will tell the story or will explain for us, because human beings tend to recognize information in patterns. You can give them column after column of data and they won't see it. But if you give them a bar chart or you give them a line series, they'll get it. So that was something I talked about there in that virtual session, or part 2. And I'd also mentioned this thing was about an interactive map of gun violence, which is really a couple of databases tied together. One, a database of crimes, okay, and the second one that gives us a map. And so there's a map layered over that data, and then it lets us find out where gun violence is occurring. And this is a pretty common example of what we've got out there. I also included one piece of information here for you guys and to take a look at, and I hope that you will. And that's the 5 most influential visualizations of all time. And these are situations where people took some data and then they created a visual picture of it, and it really changed how we look at things. And I want you to see that, because that's part of this whole process of data admin. What we're really doing is we use a database to collect, to store, and to retrieve data in such a way that it becomes information. And then that information can be conveyed to another application like an Excel spreadsheet, where we can take the data and put them into a visual format. And so I talked a lot about that idea of the data warehouse concept. If you understand this, you will be a far more effective manager, because you'll be able to interact with the folks in IT, whether they be contractors or whether they be people who work for your company, and you'll be able to communicate with them in a way that's meaningful. And you'll be able to make certain that the database you have, the data warehouse you have, all the information you collect, all the things you do with it, there's a purpose, and that it meets your needs. And that's a tall order. And I know your immediate response is like, oh, well, why would any idiot do that? The truth is, a lot of organizations just won't, for a variety of reasons. Okay, now I also said, okay, we've got this one tool here, or this one example, and this is Northwind Traders. So I'm going to download this. Okay, let's download it. It's a file, and I'm going to show it in the folder. I'm working on Chrome, and I'll diminish my browser, and I'm going to take Northwind and throw it on my desktop. Okay, it can't be open. Okay, I'll try again. Well, it's not playing nice with me, so let's do this. Let me go back over here for a minute. I'm having some issues with Chrome. I'll download this. Let me say it can't be displayed within Canvas. So I'm going to open this up. It's a database file. Okay, now this is very, very important. So I need you to tune in. Let me see who joined us here. Alyssa, glad to have you aboard. Now I'm going to enable. I'm downloading Northwind Traders to my desktop. I'm going to click Enable Content. Okay. And that's the login thing. Just click on that. Now on File, I'm going to click Save As. I'm going to save as a database, right? Access database. I'll click Save As, and I'm going to put this on my desktop. You'll see it's Northwind Traders, and I'll download it. And then I'll go back through the whole security routine. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to close it off, all right? And then I'll go back down to my desktop and open it up. Let's see who else has joined us here. Alyssa, Grayson. Hi, Henry. Glad to see you here. Luke, glad to see you here as well. And what we've just are downloading Northwind Traders, and I covered this to a great extent in that part 2. But I just want to refresh our memories, and I want to again talk about this whole idea of a data warehouse, because it's really changed and revolutionized how we do business. When I started learning programming, when I was at the University of Oklahoma getting my doctorate, my second language was computer science, computer languages. And I was either the second or third person to ever do that. So it was a real strange thing for my committee and a lot of different people. But I worked on databases, but you had to write a lot of programming or a lot of code, because they did not have what we call a graphic user interface like you have here. We had to operate at what we call DOS level. Well, all that being aside, databases had some significant limitations. The one that was the most significant limitation is that we used a system whereby we literally put data into a computer in its memory, and we had addresses and we had sections of it that we literally put the data in there, okay? And when we had the advent of graphic user interface, we were able to say, okay, we don't have to take this space and take it out of the computer and reduce the computing power. We can basically take a picture of that table. which is what actually they do. You'll hear, and then if we run a query, we can produce what's called a view. When a query is saved, all that's saved is just the code that executed the query. This is a revolutionary change in terms of how much we can store, how quickly, etc. And it became it's been such an enormous impact. Almost everything is a database, one way or the other. It collects information, it retrieves it for us, it sorts it for us, and all of that. And as you recall back from that second part 2 of last week, we talked about the different types of tables that exist, okay? And those tables are typically going to be one of two kinds. They're going to be what we call a constant table, and that will be like numbers, typically numbers or some kind of thing that we pull up and use like that all the time. Then the other is what there are really 3. Another that we call a dimension table. Customers is a good one. Now I'm opening up customers for just a minute. Oh, I see quite a few. It's glad to have you here. And folks that started early, but you can always trace back. Glad to see Olivia here. Let's see if I missed anybody. Braden, okay, glad you're here. And so in this customers table, I'm going to go to I'm going to open it up, and you'll see that this is all about an ID, the company, their last name, their first name, an email address, their job title, and a business phone and a home phone. Now, while this is an example of, and they've got the business phone, the fax, the city, the state and province, and all that business. And this is about how to contact these people. Who are they and where are they? And zip codes, etc. Well, the authors have loaded in dummy data to let us see what it looks like. But we call it a dimension table because it tells us some variable about our customers. Back if you've been hearing on the news or anything about, oh, this was back, but when I think Obama was president, they had this big thing about the National Security Agency going to the phone companies and asking them to give them metadata about customers, okay? Well, probably one of the pieces of metadata that they wanted was the country code for long distance calls. Now, if you have somebody living in certain cities in the United States and they're calling Yemen all the time, that will raise some suspicions, right or wrong. And so the metadata are these dimensions that people are asking for, but it doesn't take you long if you get the metadata to start to plumb through records. And so they've had that whole controversy. But this is what we would call a dimension table. Okay, and I'm going to close it. Now we also have what we call a fact table. And I'm going to scroll down here. I'm going to find one that will be, it's anything that we can add, subtract, multiply, or divide, okay? And let's look at this. We'll get the shippers, any kinds of strings, suppliers. Let's look at order details. I'm open that up. And this is what we call a fact table. You say, what do you mean? The difference between a fact table and a dimension table is that the fact table has data in it that I can add, subtract, multiply, divide, count. I can operate I can do some kind of mathematical operation. And those will typically be lists like they are here of transactions and things of that nature. Now, it's important because no matter what type of table you're working with, okay, the bottom line is it costs money to store data. It costs money to enter data. One way or the other, it will cost, and so you want to have the most economical way to get that data captured, and you want to make sure that it's stored in the most economical way possible, as well as the ease with which you can get it and process it. So that was the core of this whole idea of what we call a data warehouse, and that is we have all these tables that it's like our warehouse. We have them marked off, and then we have a way to go get the data and meet our needs, and that's going to be in the queries. So here at the top on the left hand side, okay, you'll want to go to the queries, and here we are. And I'm going to close off the customer table. And we talked about this some I did when I did the part 2. Here's the customers extended. This is a query. Now, this is what we call the data view or the data sheet view. I can go down to a design view. And as I'd said before, this will tell you a lot. This should be familiar turf, because this is the type of thing that we did in BISS 1123 when we ran queries. And you can see here, we're using the customers table, and we're getting a certain set of data from it. And then below the design view, okay, is the SQL view. Now I know that looks very formidable, but as we come to the end of the course, it will not be that big of a deal to you, simply because as we work through these each week, you'll start to see it, and you'll learn SQL, which is a computer language. It's a command and control language. It's meant to tell the machine what you want, how you want, when you want it, and that's it. It's not like Python or any other full-blown computing program. But having a familiarity with it and being comfortable with it will be greatly to your advantage as you go out and you're working. So here's the customers extended. Now I'm going to go back up to the data sheet view, and here it is. Now, if I want to, I can take the data in this table and I can export it to something like Excel. Let's say that I wanted to get the, I want to find how many people are in a certain, I think we have their zip code, or say a certain job title. We can run those. Okay. We have their dummy zip codes, but we could take that data and manipulate it a little bit, put it into a pivot table if we want, whatever we might care to do with this. This is probably, we should be able to run a query on a query, okay, and get some more specificity. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look here for just a minute, and let me scroll over. All right, and we see the business phone, and we see the address, and we have the state, okay, and I'm going to run a query. I'm going to close this off for a minute. And here's how I do it. I'm going to click Create. And you'll see the query wizard or the query design. We're going to use the query design. Okay. And now it says, what table do you want to use? And I'm going to add the customers table. Now, as I look at this, I can see, let me get this stretched out here. If it'll let me. I can see the fields. There's customer ID, that's a primary key, that's a unique identifier. There's company, last name, first name, address, email address, job title, business phone, mobile phone, address, city, state, and province. Okay, and I'm going to see how many people I have in Oregon. So I'll click that, and then I'm going to put a criteria, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to put quotes, double quotes. Now, since I'm looking for probably text, I'm going to put an asterisk as a wild card, and I'm going to put an OR, okay? And then I'm going to put another asterisk, which means anything in which OR appears, I want to see it. And I'll end that with a double quote. And then we're going to take a look at the data sheet. Okay. We've got that query and it's ready to go. And we'll go look at the data sheet view and see what we get. And we have 2 customers who are from Oregon. Now you say, well, that's not telling me much. And that's true. It's not. So let's just go back down to the design view. Okay. And I'm going to get their company and their last name and their first name. And I'll do the data sheet view and boom. These are the people who are customers who are in Oregon, the companies they work for, their last name and their first name. So I've run a query, okay? And when we get into the Patrick text, and we'll look at that here in just a little bit later, I will be able then to write the code. Then there will be some times when I'm going to use the graphic user interface like we've done here. You've done this 1123. We'll be writing some code. Really what we'll be doing is cutting and pasting some code that the author has ready for us. Okay, so I wanted to give you, just to build upon a little bit about what I did in that second session. Now we're gonna close this off with Access Workshop 1, and I'm gonna click on Database Tools, and I'm gonna click Relationships. And this will show you how these tables are all tied together. The real strength of a database is my ability to link tables and then run queries on them. And I talked about this this notion of the law of large numbers. The more data I collect, the more times I put my fishing pole in the water, the likelier it is that I'm going to find something of value or find something that I can use. And you can see how these are all interconnected. So this is what Microsoft has put together for people to see if they want to learn a little bit about data, about a data warehouse and how they're strung together. And this is a sales organization, so it's no surprise it has invoices and purchase orders and all that stuff that we want to track. Okay, so we'll close this for now. Now, I've had some questions from folks about, okay, or I anticipate I'll get some questions about when we come down here for the modules and folks say, all right, that's wonderful, right? But I want to know, okay, if you're talking about week 2, and we've got that exam coming up, all right? And then as we go down here to week 3, you have a couple of exams, and I ask you to upload Access Workshop 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right? Well, let's do this. Let's go into the Files section. Okay? And I'm going to do this. I'm going to search, and I'm going to do AW1. And there it is. It's visible. Okay? And it's the data warehouse. And we've looked around it and so forth and just kind of gotten a feeling of how it works, what it's put together. Now I'm going to do AW2. I have that in there for you. And that's the fact sales export. Okay, we're going to come back to this in a minute. And then I've got AW3. And that's a geographic sales, and that I think will give you, the name of will probably give you a clue that we're going to take data out of the database and put it in a way that we can get some sense of the geography of our customers. Where are they located? And then we've got this combined data, that database. Now, all you're going to need to do is download those and then upload them in the proper bin, and you're in good shape. So tonight, you've really done Access Workshop number 1, okay? And we've looked through the We looked through the data warehouse, but now we're going to do Access Workshop 2. And this is the fact sales export. Now I'm going to download this. Okay. And you'll notice that this is an Excel file. So I've taken the data that was in Access in that data warehouse, and I've exported it to this client or this application. You say, why would I do that? Simple. It's going to make it easier for me to handle the data in this tool. So I'm going to take the file, okay, and I'm going to save it as on my desktop. And it's on my PC, and I'll find my desktop. It's trying to tell me to put in my downloads folder. There's a desktop. And I'm going to save it. And it says already exists, so that's okay. And then I'm going to diminish, and I'm going to go down here. I'm going to go down here and find it. And it's fact sales. And what I'm going to do to enable me to upload it, I'm going to make sure that it's mine. In other words, it's been downloaded to my environment, my desktop, and then when I reload it to Canvas, there's a problem. So I click File, and I'll save it as this PC on the desktop. And it'll say you want to replace it? Yes. And now what I'm going to close off, and I'm going to go down to this Excel file, this export, okay, and I'm going to rename it, and I'm going to call it Access Workshop 2 Export Harmon. Now, we exported the data, and you say, oh, okay, how do I do that? And you may not have done that prior to. So let's go back to the modules, okay. And well, we don't need to do that. We have if we have the Northwind Traders on our desktop, go to that. Go to Northwind Traders and open it up. All right. And then we're going to, I've got these queries, the customers extended. Let's look at what would be inventory. I'll open that up. Okay, that's good. And I'm going to close it off. And I'm going to right click on inventory, and you see the little export. It says, and I can export it in a multiple of different file formats depending upon what's used or what's available for everybody. Now I'm going to export this to an Excel file, all right? And it says the file name and the file format. And I'll put yes, export it with the formatting. And I've exported it. Okay. And so I should see the export down here. And let's find that exported file. It should be down here. If not, I'll have to do it again. Let's find that exported file. All right, let's go back up here. And there's the inventory. I'm going to export it in Excel. And, oh, I didn't specify the destination. I'm a dummy. The destination is my desktop. And I'll click Save. And then we're okay. And then we'll close this. And I'm going to diminish. And I'm going to take a look for I had the fact sales, and I'm going to look for the inventory file. And it should be down here. Here it is. Now, one of the things you're going to see here is it doesn't look like, although it's a Microsoft Excel worksheet, it doesn't look like one. But when I open it up and save it, it will. But that little white square is telling you this has been exported from another source. This is not something you generated from your Excel program on your machine. And now I'm ready to do some work with all this data. If I want to deal with, to order or any kind of work that I would want to do, I can do it. I can run the mean, I can run the average, the mean. I can put this into a pivot table. Okay, there's just a lot of different things I can do with it. And if I were going to be doing a lot of data handling, like taking them out on hand, okay. And let's just wrangle this a little bit here for a while, just a second, and make sure. I'll tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to come through this all on line number 1. And I'm going to fix this at line number 1. Row number 1, excuse me. And that, and then I'm going to click wrap text. Okay? And that will help me be able to see what I've got here. Now I'll go ahead and I'm going to make these bold, and I might even put a nice fill behind them. That's ugly looking. Let's try that. That's typical. And then I can do a little work around here. Quantity sold, on hand, available, on order. And I think probably what's going to be best for me is to go ahead then and with all of these, scroll down here, and then I'm going to put all borders. That way I can just see what belongs where. You can see I've got some problem children here. They're all scrunched over. And so probably I'm going to take these 3 columns and I'm just going to reformat them to be in the middle. Okay? And let me go back up here. And I'm going to try to align them in the middle. There we go. See how much better that looks. And then the same thing with the on hand, all of these. But now I'm ready to do whatever analysis I might want to do. And got those. And again, I can get these all cleaned up and looking pretty. And here's one of the things I'm going to do. I've got this quantity to reorder, okay? And I've got this whole column. And so if I want, all right, I can use some conditional formatting. And I'm going to highlight the cell rules. And I'm going to find a value. And if it's equal to 0, okay, I'm going to do a light red with a dark red, a light red fill with a dark red text. And I'm going to just bring that all the way down. And now this way, let me back that off for a minute. I messed myself up. All right, and I want to do the same thing here. Come all the way down to the end. And I'm going to do the conditional formatting and highlight cell rule, and anything equal to 0 is a light red fill. Okay, so now I can locate the stuff that needs to be reordered based on it's got a quantity order. Or I could set up a conditional statement, as we did in one of our cases back in 1123, where I say, okay, if it's this number, I order whatever. If it's below the target level, then I should order. And we've got target levels for inventory, okay? And the current level is 41, so we have 0. So that may be good, I guess, if we're meeting the target. But you can see what I mean. I can come in and do a little bit of work with this And this would be we've exported the inventory. Again, we could use a pivot table, we can sort, we can filter, we can run statistical analyses on this. That's the whole idea, is to capture that data and put it into something that's meaningful for us. We could even come over here and I'll just, let's see, I'll do a conditional formatting. And I'm going to put highlight cells if it's, let's see, if it's greater than, well, let's see. You can hear from my voices. Well, you know, what do I want to do with this? Well, depending on how I want to analyze it, but I can look at a reorder point if it's below the target level, and so forth. So that's, you know, we've inventoried. I mean, we just basically have imported this into Excel, where we could do anything we wanted to. It would depend upon what information I want to derive from about our inventory. So that's why you have two things. You know, the first is obviously is just simply the data warehouse itself, and that's what you'll have to, that's all you'll need to upload. And then Access Workshop 2, I think, is the export, where we exported the file. Okay, and let's go back into the files again, and so you'll know where to find them to upload them. Okay, and we'll do AW1, which is, okay, and then AW2, and that's the fact sales export, where we have exported sales data to take into Excel. All right, and then 3 is one where we have gotten some geographic data. Let's go to this geographic sales for a moment, and let's download it. And I'm going to take this and open it up. And we'll enable the editing here. And we have the region, the state. This is not really complex, okay? We've got the region, the state, and the sales. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this up and make it look nice. So I'm going to put everybody into a, so I'm going to center everything. I'm going to do the same thing with the states. And here I see an anomaly, okay? Somebody decided to put Georgia instead of the two digits, instead of the 2 letters designation. So I'm going to start with that, and I'm just going to put in GA for Florida. And I think Louisiana is LA, if I'm not mistaken. That's better for us. The data are consistent. These are sales data. And we'll put the sales figures over here where they're pretty. And now I can go ahead and I can put a nice bar above it. I want to frame it. Okay. And you can see, same thing down here. And then we can analyze these regional data. And I'm just putting them in here just to format them a little nicer than they were. And we have the region. Okay. So now if we want to get the total, if we've got these states in New England, the Midwest, and the Southeast, so these regions are in ascending order. They're alphabetized basically. And we can see the sales data for each of them. All right. Now, just for kicks, let's go ahead and I'm going to highlight the array A1. Yeah, I want A1 down to C10. Okay. And I'm going to insert a pivot table. Now I'm putting it in a new worksheet, blah, blah, blah. Now the pivot table is a pretty simple proposition. This will give me the list of fields, and these are the buttons of stuff I want to show. The pivot table is a tremendous tool because it's much easier to manipulate the columns, that is the dimensions, with the values or the data. So I'm going to click on region, okay, and I'm going to use region for a column, right? And I've got these regions here. Now we got the column labels. And let me go back to this for a minute. This is spooking me because I thought we had. Let me get this whipped out of here. Okay. Go back to sheet 1 of the geographic sales. New England, Midwest, Southeast. All right, let's go to sheet 1. Okay. And we've got the regions. We're missing a region, and I don't understand this. So I'm just gonna get rid of this sheet too. I'm gonna delete it. No big deal. And I'm gonna use our pivot table again. And see what we get. And okay. I should get I'll try my regions in the columns. I'm not getting that other region, and I don't understand that. All right. Let's take that out of there and see if there's some quirky thing. Now let's take regions and put them into the rows. And I don't understand why I'm getting this. Is weird. Strange. Been like this all week. Well, I guess I might as well show you where I wanted to head things, since that was becoming a disaster. But if you look over here, you'll see the pivot table fields, all right? And I've got them by region, by state, by sales, okay? And for the states, I have the rows. And then for the values, I show the sum of sales. And I've got region as a filter. Okay, and I use some conditional formatting to look at them. And I can try, and we can put the, let's see what we could do. Let's put region instead of the filter into the columns. Okay. Now this gives us something a little more meaningful to look at. We've got the sales by region and then the total. So we basically, it's just going to depend upon what questions we're after or what we want to do. But we've taken the queries out of that warehouse and we've dumped them over here in Excel where we can do some work with them. Okay. And we'll go back to the geographic sales. And there's, the regions, etc. why it didn't extract stuff for New England is a bit beyond my comprehension, unless it did and I'm just not seeing it. Okay, well, there's the New England region. And then we've got the Southeast region. Pardon me, the Southeast, New England, Southeast, and West. Why I'm torturing myself. There's only three regions. Okay. Sometime my brain will kick in, won't it? There's only three regions. And then in the totals. Now, here I've got the data, and I would probably want to come in and go ahead and make all borders there just to make it easier for me to see. Okay. I need to highlight the areas. There we are. Now we're in a situation where we could say, okay, we've got the grand total for the region, for the state. We've used some conditional formatting of some type, it looks like, or we've maybe colored these cells, and we may have used a command. So I'm going to come up here and take a look at the conditional formatting and see. Look at manager rules. And doesn't seem to be any there. It must have just colored in with the, I just might have just filled these, but I don't think so. I think we use the color code just per region. So Louisiana is there, and Louisiana. We'll just take it. Well, I'm going to do copy format painter, and I'll copy that, and then I'll format paint Louisiana. There we go. And just to make these, again, this is just a little bit of work we're doing with these. To make these a little more visible, I'm going to turn them into white letters so we can see them. We won't be able to see all of them, but that's okay. Over here in this region, we're going to go ahead and use yeah, that'll work. That way we can see everybody. And that's really all we're doing. And then we do some mathematical operations, or we use it in a report, but you can see how much easier it is to work with these data if I'm exporting them out of the database. And that's typical. Now, what we just did with the export is really no different than commercial products are out there like SAS, like SAP, etc. Because what they do is they'll perform the same function for you, but you don't have to go in and play with all the bells and whistles to make it happen like you do with Excel. As you've heard me say before, Excel is like learning to ride your bike or learning to drive the car. Once you've done it, you can drive about anything because you understand the principles of driving. And so that's what we're trying to show you here. And when we have a data warehouse, okay, we can run queries, but then we will often use the queries, we'll export them to Excel or we'll have software that will do it for us to give us these kinds of summative data that we might need, that we might want. So this is Access Workshop 3, where we've got geographic cells. Now, if I have some other data, I can play around with them, and I'm going to do that. And I'm going to go back up to the modules area. Okay. And I'm going to come down to the welcome module, and I'm going to take Northwind Traders, open it up. I have it down here already. Let me diminish this. Here's Northwind Traders. let's open Northwind Traders up again. You see, Dr. Harmon, you're jumping from one thing to this. Yes, the whole idea of this is what we call interoperability. That is, I can take Excel data and import it into Access and run queries on that data. I can take data that's in Access for which I have run queries, and I can export it to Excel. It just depends upon what I want to do. I'm going to look at the customers extended. I think I'm going to look at something else. Instead of that, let's look at the order summary. No, that's no good. We got the order subtotals. Let's look at the order summary. Good, very good. And the subtotals, I'm just going to close that off. Now, the order summary has a ton, I mean an absolute ton of information. And so that's waiting for us. So if I wanted to go and get data on these folks and convert it into, and I don't know their zip code, Thomas Avenue, I'm looking for a state. I have a paid date, and I've got orders. So instead of that, I'm going to get the customers extended. So I'll close everything here. And I'm going to go into the customers extended and open it up. And I've got their contacts, their business phone. I'm looking for, beautiful. Now, the only problem is I don't have zip code for these, but I can export this. And if I had the real zip codes along with the cities and streets, I could export this to Excel and then open up some of these mapping clients that are out there, little mapping. They're really nothing more than a database, just mapping tools. And with the zip codes, and I can show you, I can show you everywhere we have a customer. Now, there are some of these that we might be able to do with the city and the state, but I'm doubting it. I'm doubting it, frankly, but maybe it would work. I'm not sure. I think they'd want zip codes. Oh, but let's try it. Now, I'm going to export customers extended just real quickly. And let's see, I've got the data sheet here. I'm going to close it off because I've got to have it over there. All right, here we go. Export Excel. And I want to put it on my desktop. Okay. And then I want to save it to my desktop. And okay, and I'm done. Now I'm going to come down here and find that file. And it's going to have this funny looking thing. Here's customers extended. You see, it doesn't look like an Excel file, but that's okay because it's not till we open it up in here. So I'm going to open it up. And I'm going to do some manipulation with it. So what are you talking about? Well, I've got the email address, and I'm going to I think I'm going to get rid of some of these columns, and I'm just interested in the address. So I'm going to eliminate those columns. Okay. And now I have this state or province, The zip code, I'm going to get rid of it. We'll probably not be able to get anything without the zip code, but we'll try. We've got the company, the web page, notes, attachments. We don't need those, so we'll get rid of them. And I'll forward that out there. We don't want the fax number, so we'll delete that. So we're down to the address, the city, the state, and the region, okay? Now, I'm going to diminish this for a moment and go out on the internet. And again, this is the reason this is so important for you is so you can see how I can get all kinds of insights. So let's hope this works. So I'm going to do Easy Map Maker. There it is, Easy Map Maker. Okay. And they're going to ask me to click and paste my data in here. And I've got my customers' data. Yeah. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to save this file. No, I don't. Okay. I didn't want to get rid of those. All right, let's just do this. All of those we don't need, we'll delete. And the web page, notes and attachments, we'll delete. Okay, and then we have the country and region, and the state and the province, and the zip code. And we're going to get rid of the zip code because those are all dummy. And we've got the state of the province. It's not pretty, but we're going to save it. And this is customers extended. Now I'm going to leave it, and I'm going to come over to Easy Map Maker and say, okay, click and paste the data. Good enough. And I'm going to look at customers extended. Open that up. And now I'm ready. I'm going to input the address. And I'm going to put copy. And then I'm going to go out here to the web. I'll click here, paste the data, Control V. And let's make a map. Let's see if it's going to do something for us. Now, again, this is a cheap and dirty, but if we had the zip codes, it would be a lot easier. Let's say what kind of results we get. But I think you get my drift in terms of why we use that warehouse and how we use those tables to get us some information and some insights. And here we are. So now I have I've taken the database and I've taken and exported it to a spreadsheet. I've cleaned it up the best we can, and then I've created a map. So now I have a map of my customers, and even I put the little cursor, it will tell me. Now this is a nice thing that it lets me see the dispersion of everybody, and as you can tell, it looks like I'm kind of skimpy in terms of the East Coast. I have a lot of folks out on the West Coast and in the mountain region, and then in the Midwest. So you can see the pattern there. I have a fairly good pattern in terms of the distribution. Now, one of the nice things is I can click on this. All right. And if I want to, I can copy this to a blackboard, or I can zoom in, or if I want to see it at street level, I'll see street level. And we can go down there. Let's see if we can go down a little bit more. And there it is. Isn't that nice? Here's another database. We just layered some more over it. This time it's streets. And, you know, I can go ahead and I'm going to block that. Okay. And you can see this is where I'm at. And I've got it pinned. And, you know, I should be able to come down even closer than that. Here we go. At street level. Isn't that nice? This is the trip. So this one location. Now, if I want to see the street level. Okay. And so I'm going to go down and navigate. It might let me do that. I'm going to zoom go here. We can see where this location's at. And in Google Earth, you can get even more than that. But I wanted to show you this so you understand this course is not just about databases, but what they can do for us. And here we've seen we can do some exporting. So the whole idea of the data warehouse is to have a repository of data that I can take and put into several applications or take several looks at it and make and draw some conclusions. And I can map, and I can, again, back out from these and take a look. I could go to Google Earth if I had the full addresses and put those in as well. So I wanted to give you that opportunity to see those, okay, and that's in Northwind Trader. Let's go back over here to the modules, okay, and we've looked at this fact sales, which is access workshop number 2. I think the geographic is 3 or 4, so you can see what I'm after for the access workshops 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can see how I can use this database in a variety of ways. And notice what I've done is I've taken the data from the database. Now, actually, took the data from a query, okay, that I'd executed, put it into a spreadsheet, and this is the geographic data. I cleaned those up, and then I put it into a map maker online, and I have a nice little layout of all of my client, of where my customers are. Now, I have a couple of tools in here, okay, that if I'm not mistaken, I put them in here. And I think it's in the welcome thing. And let me see that. This is one that I really think you need to take a look at. Let's see, the touch screen, database, imports. Okay. We've done the so bear with me, my apologies. And hang on here a minute. No. Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, the wisdom trail. There's also, I have here a resource on the 5 stages of the Gartner hype circle. And that is, we know that with technologies or any new products, there's a hype, there's a buzz, and there's a cycle that it follows, just like any product file that it does. And here they are. Here's some great resources. This is from the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. These are the folks that have satellites going over. And here's the human landscape from Digital Globe. OpenStreetMap. This is an interesting one. It shows retailers can use heat maps from your phone to see your pathway through their store. And when people go online and buy something, you can analyze all of their clicks and how long they were there. Databases make this possible. Okay, so that's why this has become such a powerful tool. Now, I do want to make sure that you hear or see about Esri Business Analyst Online. So I'm going to click that and go there. And I want you to look at some of these. And they have web and mobile apps, and they can give you an analysis, an overview, and they give you some of the applications. Okay, the web and mobile app, they have a desktop, they have a server. And here's just a quick overview of the thing, what they can do for you. And they can start to show you some information. They'll give you some verbiage. Okay, for example, is your business in an area that's prone to flooding? Okay, lifestyle, drive location decisions. Where would I locate my company, etc. And they walk through how the business analyst works. And they give you a case study of Chick-fil-A, a few other institutions that you can read and see how they've used that tool. Okay, it's about 7:30, and as I have promised you each week, and I keep to that promise. What I'll do is this will be the ground-based portion. Okay, tonight we had the inclement weather thing, etc. So I do appreciate you being here online and everything. I was hearing all kinds of dire warnings tonight about dry ice on the highway, black ice on the highways, all that stuff. So that's why I said, all right, we'll do this virtual. And it is pretty cold. And if there are any of you that had to drive we're going to have to drive into town, I'd be cautious about that, because even if it's not icy, it's brutally cold. Okay, I'm just going to tell you that right now. If you haven't discovered it, you haven't been outside. And it won't take too many minutes for you to get really, really chilled to the bone. So that'll do it for tonight for this session. And then tomorrow or over the weekend, I'll do a part 2. And in that part 2, I'm going to introduce us to the lunches database and starting to write some code and do that. In the meanwhile, make sure that we're all on top of what's going on. On the 8th, see if we have anything going on that's due. No. But then on the 15th, you've got the POTSI exam, Chapter 1. Okay? That's due on why did I make it February 14th? Hang on a minute. They say POTSI exam is on the 14th. Well, that's a Thursday. I'll leave it anyway. I don't like that because with this class though, yeah. Okay, so you'll have so you've got a few things coming up weekend 2 and 3. You can always work ahead. Don't worry about that. And in part 2, I'll also talk about database models, and we'll go from there. Okay. I thank you so much. Just about everybody's here tonight online, so I want to see if anybody has questions. Let me start with you. Brooke, do you have any questions? And I'll unmute everybody. Brooke, do you have any questions? Okay. Any questions? Luke? Bruno? Are you doing it all night? All right, I'm going to unmute it. So if anybody doesn't have any questions, I'm going to pop this off. Thank you, Alyssa, for being here. Braden, Brooke, Bruno, Dean, you were here. Henry, thank you so much for being along. We've got Lotka, Kristen, Quentin, Alejandro. We got a crew. And it sounds like you probably are all at somebody's house having a party. I don't want to know. Okay? But now, listen. You know, if you go out and you go look, if you're partying, make sure that you remember that databases are a good thing to party with too. That who knows why I said that, but I will see you folks next week, and be looking for part 2 this weekend. Okay, thank you much, and have a good one, and stay safe out there.